Hello, this is Jared Wignall, and today I'm going to be giving commentary over the film Capote. And I have it synced up with a Blu-ray. If you have it on DVD or Blu-ray, you can get it synced up if you want. You can just pause the video right now, and then when you have it ready, you can push play, or if it's on Netflix or on any streaming service you can find, you can watch it with me as I give a different kind of commentary. I kind of just wanted to talk about what I liked about the film, and they're very specific things I kind of want to talk about, mostly the acting. And so, without further ado, we're gonna, in 3, 2, 1, push and play right now. And now it's starting. This movie came out in 2005. Essentially just follows Truman Capote as he writes his famous book In Cold Blood. And it's a very interesting film. I find it very entertaining as well as informative in the mind or of what goes on with Truman Capote as he's writing his story. You know, he is determined to figure out exactly what happened in order to provide the best story he can, as well as just trying to be as respectful of those who died. Now we see just, just like acres of farmland. And now we see a farm. It's just, at the moment, it's very quiet. And that's something I have to say in a lot of Bennett Miller films, or all of them that I've seen. I have seen all except for the first thing he ever did, which was a documentary made called The Cruise. And now somebody's about to, she's going to find the bodies. I can really only imagine what seeing a sight like that would be. It would be horrible. But, it's very tragic of what happened at this farm. And now we see New York City. And I'm sorry to get off topic for a moment, but I kind of want to talk about just the look of it. It really looks like the 50s, which obviously is important since it takes place in 59 and early 60s, but sometimes I've seen certain movies, like period pieces, that they just don't go quite as, detail as they should. And now here we get, here we see Truman Capote, Philip Seymour Hoffman as Truman Capote, and I feel that, like this is his best performance he ever gave, and I have to say, his performance is just outstanding, and at the he was singled out with all the praise by critics and audiences, and he just embodied Capote. He truly went all the way with that. He this party scene is just is very entertaining. It just shows how his kind of glimpse of what his life was like before he started getting into writing about the murders. And I have to say, it's very good to do, because you see where he was before all of this, and then by the end you see how the researching and writing this book took a toll on him. He kind of established a connection with the guys who committed the crime, one in particular. But at this moment in time, Philip Seymour Hoffman did, he did small independent films, and he truly was a rising actor. He really started to get more leading roles throughout the 2000s, as opposed to being just like a supporting actor. And then this really truly was a huge point in his career, that things started to change for Philip Seymour Hoffman, where he is now able to be taken more seriously. Not to say he wasn't taken seriously before, because he was, but now he's truly a real established actor who took on a truly fantastic role, and made you believe you were actually watching the real life man as this went on. And I think that was very important to nail down. And I read that he stayed in character. He talked like him and did a little and secrecies, like little mannerisms, I want to say. He just embodied Capote, and Bennett Miller was truly on the right track when he cast him. And Catherine Keener as Harper Lee she was fantastic as well. Chris Cooper is great. Clifton Collins Jr. as Perry Smith, and Mark Pellegrino as Dick Hickok. If I butchered his last name, I'm sorry, but last two were murders of the family at the farm, and it's just it was the event that took place was truly like a daunting one. It was very saddened and was very. It was just shocking, and I like this introduction to Chris Cooper's character, Alvy Dewey, and then the dynamic that both kind of interaction that he and Capote have. I mean, here he's going and saying how he's going to write an article for the New Yorker about like the crimes, and then he's like he doesn't really care if they catch whoever did the murders, but Chris Cooper does, which obviously he should, because he's a police officer and he's leading the investigation in this. And it's interesting as later on those two get closer together, and the interactions that Capote has with all these people, they're even just the people and characters that don't have a lot of time are always important. For something like a film like this, it's all important, because sometimes they don't necessarily just try to, sometimes films about a subject like this don't want to be as detailed, like use every little bit of information, and any character in here. Sometimes they don't use it to their potential. And what I'm saying is sometimes they don't use something that could be very important in a film, like a certain character who did certain things can be kind of overlooked, or their role in the movie will be like shortened drastically, and their importance doesn't seem to be as it wasn't as shown as it was in the real events, such as here the girl that Truman wants to talk to, she obviously is important, and and sometimes in a film like this, they might just mention her and not have her be an important factor in this, because from this, Truman Capote, he finds out that the boy she was with, was like close to the family, and that, something like that, something as horrible, nothing bad ever happened to him until now. And it's affecting him, and especially her, because she's the one who found the bodies. And now we're back to... Now we're going to see Capote the funeral home. Just to see exactly what the effect did of the gun wound, how bad the gun wounds were, and he lifts up one of the caskets and just can't believe that the whole can't believe it. I mean, the whole face, the face is wrapped up because they were shot in the head, but still, just the imagining of the imagery that could go in your head of what is behind that. It's just it'd be horrible. Now he's talking to his boyfriend. I don't recall exactly who he played, or who he was. Okay, I'm looking it up here. He played it's Bruce Greenwood, and he plays Jack Dunphy. And again, the acting is great. I apologize if this commentary isn't very good. I'm still trying to work on it. I'm working at trying to make this very good, or at least entertaining and somewhat informative. But I want to get back to Bennett Miller. I mentioned the quietness that his films often have. He also seems to do true stories, like films that are real. This first film was a documentary. That film was about a man named Timothy Livich, who was nicknamed Speed, and apparently he was a tour bus driver in New York City, at least at the time. At least at the time Miller made his documentary. Capote was his second film, but it was also his first feature-length film. That wasn't it was his first biographical film in that. Now he's going to make a movie based upon based upon real events in a non-documentary format. And the third film was Moneyball, starring Brad Pitt and Jonah Hill and Philip Seymour Hoffman as well. That film was just as amazing as Capote, as well as his next film, which was Foxcatcher. All these films are very good. They're all quiet, and I have to say, I haven't really come across a director who's able to make films with a quiet tone so entertaining and informative. I would like to see The Cruise someday, but at the moment, I am just fine with the films I have seen of Millard's. I may conduct commentary for his next two movies also, but Philip Seymour Hoffman, he was truly a tour de force of this film. The film, won a whole bunch of awards. Philip Seymour Hoffman won most of the awards that this film received. I'd like to say he won every award he was nominated for, which included the Golden Globes, which was the only nomination the film received at the Golden Globes, the BAFTA, the Critics' Choice Award, the Screen Actors Guild for Best Actor, as well as the Academy Award for Best Actor. And that's a well-deserved Oscar. I feel this film should have won more Oscars, in my opinion. I think it should have won, in addition to Best Actor, Best Picture, Director, Supporting Actress, and Adapted Screenplay, which was pretty much all the awards the film received at the Oscars. But I truly feel the film deserved it. Now, Brokeback Mountain came out the same year, and Brokeback Mountain's a good film, I don't want you to. I just want to throw that out. It's a fine film, and yet I feel that Capote was just better. I felt it was a better film overall. I just liked the story more. And that's not to say I love every film based on a true story. But this one in particular, particularly in the year that came out, was just so immersive in the subject it was tackling. I think more so than the other films nominated for the big awards, like the Oscars that year. Now Capote is seeing the horrible pictures of the family who died, and it's just horrible. And I have to say, Chris Cooper's character leading Truman Capote, look at those, takes a lot of trust. And now we're going to find out that the book that Harper Lee got to have her book. Her book will now be published. The book is To Kill a Mockingbird. Her best known work, just as In Cold Blood was Capote's his best work. and he's Capote's boyfriend is a little miffed that he's not coming home for Christmas. Oh, and my door just shut. But yeah, he's a little upset that he's not coming back for who knows how long. He wants him back for Christmas, but that seems to basically be out of the question. Now Capote's just talking to those who knew the family, trying to see like who these people were, as opposed to just kind of like what they have on the suspects. And these scenes with Alvin Dewey and Truman Capote was just, these are some of the most interesting scenes, I think. Now, Alvin's a little upset because of the crime, because of the case, because he, they find out, they know who did the crime, but now they left town, and now he's just very upset, which I can understand, trying to figure out who killed all the family, and now knowing who it was, but now they've just left town. It's just it wouldn't be very good. Now we have a phone call that Alvin needs to call or take the call, and trying to have a good dinner with family and Truman and Harper, and now his son basically just telling him that the phone call was very important. It's now January 6th, 1960, and now the murderers are now in custody. They're back in Kansas, and they're to be put on trial. This tone, aside from the quietness, is obviously a dark. Is also dark, as it's a very well balanced mixture of the two. Sometimes films can be too dark. Sometimes they're maybe a little too quiet. Bennett Miller was able to get the right kind of mixture and an even balance. Capote is looking at the two suspects for the first time, particularly Perry Smith, who is like somebody who piques his interest more. There's something about him that he can relate to. This scene, I've always I've always thought this scene, is just it's very light, and it's kind of a light moment in the film. And now he sees that where he's meeting Dorothy Sanderson is where they're keeping Perry Smith in like a specially made cell to keep the two apart, and it's like the woman's cell. I think because it's the woman's cell. It's like because it's the kitchen, I guess. So that's why it would be the woman's cell, quote unquote. And this begins the first of the many interactions the two will have throughout the film. And as the small little interactions, it's interesting to see how they kind of develop more. And not obviously, Capote is interested just for writing the books or his book. And yet there's something that it's like perhaps there's something more. I've read that perhaps there was some sort of relationship that went on between Perry Smith and Truman Capote. They're now back at the sheriff's residence with Dorothy. And now Capote is asking some questions. He's trying to, he's offering him some aspirin that he asked for earlier, which Truman did not have. And now he gave him some aspirin. this is just like the very beginning of the two beginning to talking about just started talking about like a variety of topics, like Capote starting it with aspirin and then seeing his book in the cell, and now Smith is talking about how they couldn't fail with the judge. Like, just talking about how he's kind of relieving his frustration to Capote. And now we have Bob Balaban as William Shaw, the editor of the New Yorker, and now Capote is calling to let him know that he's now writing a book, and that he needs some more money. And Capote is having pictures taken of the two murderers. And then he'll later, take a picture with Perry. And which I have to say, it's very interesting, just show them their tattoos they have. And just pictures of them, which I always found very interesting. Like, obviously, like for evidence, but the fact that Capote is there, I'm like, that's something that probably wouldn't happen very often. Probably like only happened because he was famous and he was writing a book about the subject. And now the verdict is going to come in now for those two. They're found guilty on all the accounts of murder, and I have to say that it's all kind of curious as to what it was that piqued Capote's interest about Perry Smith. I mean, there were things that he could relate to, and yet just in the very beginning. I mean, it's one thing when Smith tells Capote about his child, or like his early life, so that he can kind of get a sense of how he got to where he is now. But at the same time, what was that initial spark of interest? All that was really that we know of from the film. Capote sees him when he's going up into the courthouse, the sheriff's place. He goes to talk to the woman that's in the sheriff's department, and from there, he just kind of, there's something about it that just, it was very interesting. And now Capote is just talking to his friends about the case and what he's learned, and essentially he's like, I'm gonna make a book about it. And he's now kind of in love with himself, is what his partner said to Harper Lee. Which I have to say was, from what I've learned of Capote, may not be far from the truth, but he was a very talented writer. And I must say, this film does explore a light into what Capote was probably going through. We see Hoffman's expressions. We see how he feels, which is more effective than when reading. Because when you would read a book, you don't necessarily. You can imagine it in your head, but sometimes seeing it helps form a better picture. And I've said this before, but I'm going to probably say it again. But Hoffman truly did capture what the essence of Capote was like, or just the essence of Capote. He became him, and it's such a fantastic performance. This is a performance that I think anybody who wants to be an actor, or perhaps even is an actor, but is still, an up and coming, you might want to watch this film and particularly Hoffman's performance, because it can be helpful in just watching him, even if you're not doing a film about a real person. I think just getting into the character's mindset, that would be very important to do. That way you understand what's going on with the character, what the character's thinking, why they do the things they do, and all that good stuff. Now he's talking to the warden at the prison where Hickok and Smith are at. I have to say, in order, like how he got to have the being able to come into the prison and talk to them as long as he wanted, obviously. I'm like, that probably happened because, like, how else would he have been able to have unlimited access, like being able to come in anytime he wanted and talk to them as long as he wanted. I mean, it's a great scene, but yeah, here's what I was talking about. He's paying the warden in order to see them as long as he wants for however long he can. And he's getting patted down in order for that way he can go and just talk to them. And we already have found out that Perry Smith hasn't eaten in a month, but Richard Hickok looks all fine. Hickok saying that. Him saying that he's just trying to get an insanity plea is just. It's kind of like, okay, yeah. Because that's what you do when you starve yourself, yeah. Now he's at the store getting some baby food, and he's this kid, little boy with a toy gun, and he's probably like, it's not something he necessarily really wanted to see, like, especially when pertaining to the book he's writing, to see someone with it. Even though it's a fake gun, he probably didn't really want to see something like that, at least not during this time. Now he's feeding. I've always found it interesting of him feeding Perry food. Like he was the only one who could actually get him to eat something. And they haven't really even talked a whole lot yet. So there's already this, like, kind of hidden, like, non-spoken kind of understanding of sorts. Now he's giving him something, some water. Basically just taking care of him because the guards won't do it. And he just keeps coming back. Now he's going to find out more about Perry's background. Basically, Perry and his sister had to take care of each other. Now, starting to learn a little more about Capote's background, like how he wasn't necessarily how they aren't completely different. Like Capote was kind of his mother would take him places he wouldn't want to go and have to be locked in a room, not being able to do anything, and essentially was kind of alone. But and then the connection is really made when he reveals he too grew up without a mother like Perry did. But his aunts, he grew up with his aunts and met Harper Lee there, growing up being neighbors, and Perry's mother was Cherokee. Of course, by this time, that's truly during the 60s. There's not Native Americans. Oh, something fell. But Native Americans during the 50s and 60s still weren't looked upon as real people, which is sad, but as stated earlier, at least the warden, I should say, counted him as a white man. That way he wouldn't necessarily be harassed probably as much as if he was counted as a Native American. Some of the music from this film was later used in Foxcatcher. Michael Dana did the music. And I find the music works well with this film and Foxcatcher. Now, talking to Harper Lee about his conversations with Perry Smith. And Harper isn't necessarily too thrilled about this. He's trying to get Hickok and Smith another lawyer so that they can have an appeal to their case. Kind of makes you a little wonder, like, what his true motives are. Yeah, like, does he actually really want to help the two out? Or is just doing it for just to help himself? And it's very evident as to what the answer is. You know, he's just, in many ways, he's like just doing it for kind of like for himself, so like just so he can have a great book. Now he's meeting Dewey again. Telling him his book will be called In Cold Blood. He doesn't seem to be completely amused. He's annoyed at Capote for getting them a good lawyer and to help at an appeal at the Supreme Court. He's not happy since, you know, that he feels like, okay, you're trying to get these guys out of he's just trying to get off. Yeah, he is not at all happy with him at the moment. Feeling that he's just trying to help them to get out of jail, get out of the death sentence that they are going to have. But, you know, that's not really the case. He's just trying to do this so he can get more of the story, because if he doesn't do something, the two will, you know, eventually be executed. And he just wants to have a good story. And he's trying to convince the two that he's helping them. He's on their side, you know, which fit up in his position. You know, he has to convince them that way. they'll keep telling him things about themselves, their background, and the eventual murder. Just trying to get him to talk about the murder. But Smith isn't really into doing that at the moment because he heard what Capote's book will be called, which is, and he doesn't particularly like that, so he's not a huge fan of that title, and I can see why that would be, talking to a guy who you think is going to help you, but then it turns out, maybe he's not, just trying to get stuff out of me for this book. He keeps calling his boyfriend over and over, like throughout this film. And he's just a little annoyed. His boyfriend's annoyed with him because he's spending so much time with these guys when he's probably like, you probably have like enough information. And all he really needs now is like about the murders about it, and he doesn't have that yet. He needs to still like gain their trust more. Particularly Smith. He's giving him some books to read. Now, Hickok has revealed to Capote that they never meant to kill that family. It's very important. Very important for him to know. That, because he, it wasn't really, they didn't set out to kill anybody, but what happened just went from what their goal was to do in that house, just things went wrong, and then just very unfortunate. Now he has enough notes about the murder, about the book. He's in Spain now and just writing. And he is just in taking like a vacation to write his book. He needs the murders now is all he needs. When he gets the murders, he can finally finish his book. And and Perry Smith is like he wasn't. he just now is realizing that he has to get the murders now. He has to talk to them in order to finish his book because, Mr. Shaw is telling him that the book so far is amazing, it's fantastic, but now we need it, the book to... just... And Harper Lee's visiting them. It's like, just catching up, and now, yeah. Her book is like turned into a book now, and he's just so much into his work about the murders and Perry, and particularly, he just can't really get out of this mode. He has this obsession, which I think is very interesting to really talk about. It's a very interesting subject to have like a big focus in the film about, like, this obsession of his. He needs the book to be perfect, because, like, if it's not perfect, then why bother? What's the point of what has this whole all been about? And and his friends and partner are just a little... They're just annoyed that he's unable to just distance himself. I mean, yes, when he's writing, fine, but like outside of that, he's still in that mind frame. He's in the mind frame of trying to help the guys. And now they're planning on just seeing each other again. Now back to the prison. I know there are parts of this I haven't really talked about, but I'm trying to give a kind of unique commentary, and I've never done this really before, so it's a learning experience. And I've already said this, but still, I only felt bearing repeating it because now and now this guy's he's on death row and is gonna die. Unfortunately for him, I haven't commented as or at least for good little short periods of time, like I thought I would be throughout this whole thing. But lying to Perry now, I haven't written anything, and yet he's written the first 3 parts of it. He just needs the murders, and he's complete. And now, I have to retract something I said earlier about that. This is later on is how he finds out, like Perry finds out about the title of the book. It's just he was just a little peeved at the moment, so trying to recollect everything within this movie, and then certain scenes. I guess I'm trying to think ahead of myself, or get ahead of the movie, and just speak before. Said until it actually happens in the movie. Perry looking out where this guy's gonna die, and it's like looking at. This is eventually where I'm going to go, and you hear the rope tighten as the guy falls and his neck breaks. Reading excerpts of his book, I have to say, just everybody is just listening intently at every single thing he is saying about the murders, and then there's the guy coming back out of his dead body, and that's kind of Perry's just like, man, sometime that's gonna be me if this appeal doesn't go through, because the appeal is just going on and on and on. Capote just wants his ending to his book. He just needs the ending. It's really all he wants at the moment, and yet he cares for Perry. A little party after his reading. it's always interesting to see this kind of dynamic side to Capote. That guy was... One man was terrified with the description of the killers. Well, it's a crime novel about brutal murders, so of course it's gonna not be completely happy. And now, William Shaw is telling him all this stuff. Your book will change how everyone reads books, how everybody will write books. It's going to change this and that. And now he's kind of like, oh, well, it's like that's a lot of pressure. And really, it's like, because also, it's also important to note that after In Cold Blood, Capote never wrote another book again. Perhaps it's because of, like, how could I, ever top what this book, as well as the emotional toll writing the book took on him, like how, like what can he possibly do next? What could he say next that he hasn't said yet? And now the two now have a state execution. The state execution of... And now Capote is kind of devastated. He's kind of like, oh man, I need the ending of the book. Tell me the... He's trying to... Perry Smith's trying to act smarter than Capote. And now he's a little annoyed at that, but now he needs him to tell him about the murders now. And Capote... Perry never wanted to talk about the murders. And so now that's what he's essentially just going to leave him now because he's not going to tell him what he needs to hear for his book. Well, then he he's just gonna leave. Anything he helped, everything he's helped with, essentially is not gonna do anymore. Now he's talking to Perry's sister, just talking a little more about his background. His sister isn't completely fond of him. Of Perry, at least. Perry's sister isn't hugely fond of her brother at the moment. So now we have come to see if Perry will finally tell what happened. Tell him about the murders. That way he can finish the book. And then that way, like, the rest will be history. Okay, here's the name of the book part. What he was irritated at was he kept talking about the murders. And now he's going to tell them about the... Just reading a newspaper article that he has. Someone sent it to him. Now he's just telling him that, no, my book isn't called In Cold Blood. I haven't picked a title out yet. Whoever wrote the article did. He hasn't... He couldn't possibly even fathom picking a title before his book is even complete. You pretend to be my friend. Well, hey. You tried. Just learning all this unfortunate stuff. How about... It's very, It's very angry at him, and I can, you understand why. He's like, I'm just being used. He was never my friend. But then again, Perry Smith probably using Capote as well, just skipping around all this stuff about all the murder, the thing that he really needs to know about for his book, and yet he's not getting that information. Well, Capote, okay, I can play at this game. And now things are coming to a head, and Capote showing Smith a picture of him and his sister when they were young, and it's like at this point, is he going to finally tell him now, or what? Yep. But at this point, he wondered if he's going to keep going. Basically, $10,000 was in that house, is what they heard. But there weren't anything in there except for the for family. One of the guy, Hickok was going to rape one of the women, but Smith stopped him from doing so. So, just forced to having to kill them. You know, not wanting to kill anyone, but well, they've seen them now, so we can't have any witnesses, so the solution of Hickok was just to kill him. Smith didn't want to, but he was talked into it, and so it was decided that they would die. Yeah. No, he find out why this person had a pillow over his head before he was shot. Smith didn't want to have him look him in the eye, so just put a pillow over his face. And shooting him was like the best option, he thought. Slit his throat. Oh. And Hickok's there with a gun. And now he's the one going around killing everyone. He just... didn't mean to, but didn't want to, but he did it. Just all from cutting one guy's throat to then shooting him. I think that's exactly why he had the pillow over the guy's head. That way, when he shot him, that way he didn't have to look at some man he wouldn't have to look at the guy in the eye. He's just like, I don't want to deal with that. And now, the ending is able to be written. Finally done with his book. Philip Seymour Hoffman lost a good deal of weight for this film. Yeah. He, committed to the film and stayed committed throughout the entire filming process. As stated earlier, but this is one of those performances that is so amazing that you really have to see it to truly grasp the true nature of the amazing performance he gives in this film. Having a hard time grasping all this. He's drinking out of the baby, he's filling like baby food with alcohol. And they need another stay of execution, otherwise they will die. And now he's finally... He's just more lies to Perry, and he's just kind of like, oh... And now he's going to see To Kill a Mockingbird with Jack. Book is a success, and now it's about to be a successful film as well. And I just think the whole... this whole thing with the To Kill a Mockingbird part is just... It's funny and sad all at once. So, like, Harper Lee's like all happy about the movie and how it's a success. But then just like Truman Capote doesn't really care. Just trying to drink himself. Kind of drinking his sorrows away. Thinks that they're torturing him by the Supreme Court's torturing him now. They're torturing me. kind of found. I've always found this scene very, unfortunately, humorous. Like, he's just so out of it, unable to have fun with everybody. It's a premiere of a movie, and he's just like, "Oh, I'm being tortured. I don't." Yeah, it's. Then he says on top of it. I don't see what the big deal is. Doesn't think Kill a Mockingbird isn't that great as they're all saying. I mean, yeah, it's like, yeah, it's alright, but it's not as great as everyone's saying, and back at Capote's. Getting a call from somebody. Wants him to. He just keeps lying to the dude. Yeah, don't worry, I'm trying everything I can. Wanted to see Capote one more time before this execution takes place, since unable to get it appealed. So I think Capote isn't going to tell him I haven't been trying to help you, because he's just kind of like, what's the point now? William Shawn is just annoyed at this point. Unable to see Perry. He's not going to be talking to anybody. Doesn't want to talk to anyone. Just wants to stay in bed and just ignore. It's just not a... Now we see Hickok and Smith ready. about to die. So, unfortunately, for them, they're not long for this world. And Capote's very conflicted. He doesn't really want to have anything to do with this anymore. But it's like just have closure on it. He's gonna finally see them again after all this time. There. It's just very. This scene's very sad. It's sad for Capote. Just the thought of seeing a pair of eyes you've seen before, but the guy now is gone, and then you see him on someone else. That'd be kind of freaky. Just about the comment of him saying how he's donated his eyes to science. Now he's gonna see them at their execution, and now he's just really sad about the whole thing. Just saying, I did everything I could. When really, I just wanted to get a story, and that was it. But now the time has come for them all to essentially part ways soon enough. Just saying farewell to them, as he will not be able to say goodbye when they're up there, prepared to be hung. In some ways, this is like a closure to for Capote. Because soon all of this work he's done. All this work that he's done for so long. And Perry even shook hands with Alvin Dewey, like, good to see you. Yeah, I'm sure. Capote just watching in the back, not really wanting to be front and center at all, you know. He's just probably like, I've... Yeah. The priest. No. Nobody from the family is there. It's like you wanted to say something. Essentially, Perry is sorry for what he did, and not a whole lot of reason as to why he did it. I mean, aside from the money, but because he could have just left and have them tied up, and they could have been gone, but nope. Oh, and now being hung. And he is now gone. He is deceased. And now on the phone once again with Harper. Just talking about like what he just witnessed and probably reflecting on all the memories he made with Perry and Hancock, mostly with Perry Smith. They had a bigger bond. And Perry drew a drawing of Capote, which is reminiscent of what we saw in the very beginning of the film that he drew of himself. He also drew a bird in the courtroom. So, yeah, he was a fairly talented artist, to say the very least. Epilogue agrees. In Cold Blood made Truman Capote the most famous writer in America. He never finished another book. The epigraph he chose for his last unfinished work reads, "More tears are shed over..." I didn't get to finish reading that because that kind of went by a little fast, but he died of alcoholism, which is not a good way to go out, particularly for a author of his stature. But it's probably how he was able to cope with it all. And that is Capote. I understand that this may not have been fantastic. No, Philip Seymour Hoffman was an executive producer on the film. I know this might not have been a great commentary. But again, I just thought this could be a little fun to do, a little different than the kind of things I'm usually doing. I hope you found it at least somewhat enjoyable. Maybe you learned something, maybe not. Maybe I just repeated something you already knew. But whatever it is, I hope you enjoyed this commentary. And with that, I will bid you farewell until the next film I choose to commentate. Goodbye.